valuation. We go through a process of evaluating online, researching and understanding what we're going to purchase and look at. And that purchase cycle could be online, it could be talking to friends, it could be talking to lots of people, but we go through this active information gathering phase, and then we purchase. What's really interesting is after we purchase, we like to share what we purchased with other people, our experiences with it. We like to tell people it was good, I'm really happy about it, I'm really proud of this car I bought, or this stereo, or this device, or this restaurant was fantastic. And one of the issues, though, and maybe we get a show of hands, how many people in your budgets have budgets after moment of purchase? Does anybody want to share that they have budgets, significant budgets that are about after purchase? And I think mostly we find that that is the case. That there's this enormous amount of opportunity after a consumer purchases a product or experiences it, and very few marketers are paying attention to this time and space, this post-evaluation experience. I'm going to show you a short video, and you can get this on YouTube. It's called Blank. And it explains this customer journey process and the importance of post-purchase. Take a look.
Meet Dave. For 3 months, Dave has been considering blank. A coworker had blank. A neighbor had blank. Dave decided he needed blank. But which blank? A standard blank? A platinum blank? Or a blank with all the blanks and blanks? So he Googled blank. 1,267,043 hits. Just for blank. Over 1,900 reviews. Not all good, but mostly good. Over 400 people reviewed blank on YouTube. Several videos showcased why he shouldn't buy blank's blank. So he crossed that one off the list. He found 65 blogs comparing all the blanks. He thumbed through 4 of them, and finally narrowed it down to blank and blank. He posted a note about blank on Twitter. 14 responses within 2 minutes about blank. Come to find out, his uncle and a friend of a friend had blank. The same blank his neighbor had. Go figure. So later that week he asked the neighbor. Best blank of the bunch, he responded. Meet Dave and his new blank. He loves his blank. Blank loves Dave too. A note came in the mail saying so. Here is Dave and his blank on Facebook. 189 friends see him and blank every day. Dave just joined 28,045 others on a Facebook group who also love blank and is helping organize a local blank fest. Pretty good for Dave. He tweets about his blank. 89 friends see how much blank has made his life easier every hour. Sometimes blank even tweets him back. He has recommended blank to 8 friends this week, not including the 2 random people in the elevator and the tall guy wearing the pea coat at the bus stop. Dave has posted 58 thumbs up about blank and has been blogging about how blank just gets it. That's why he convinced his sister-in-law to buy blank. She's so not blank. Now she loves her blank, and they're both considering getting another blank. In 1 week, Dave will have touched over 435 lives recommending blank, because he is an advocate of blank. Wouldn't you want Dave talking about your blank?
So I really like this video because it talks about a very full circle of communication. It's not just about online. It's about meeting people at bus stops. It's about being at work. It's about talking. And the reality is that he bought this blank, and then afterwards he wants to tell people about it. He's really proud of it. It's a huge part of our communications today. People have the ability to talk about your products and services after they purchase ad nauseum. They can go on and talk about it, positive and negative. And what we do with that space is really important. And I'm very surprised still today how few companies are paying attention to this space. After purchase, how are we allowing ourselves to work with consumers, to help them amplify those messages? How are we making sure that the ones we want consumers to tell are being told? In this line, the brands who will win are those whose customers tell the best stories. I think sort of sums that up at the end of the day, that what we want is we want our customers to tell other people about their experiences. 70%, or I think the number is closer to 70%, is consumers believe other consumers, not brands. They believe what somebody else says about their brand from somebody else. You have recommendation. I think all of you experience that. Somebody tells you about a restaurant, they tell you about a product, you're more likely to believe what your friend says, or even people you don't know, rather than the brand itself. And I think that's a really important part of our messaging going forward. Let's tell one last story about consumer connections and our ability to understand and listen to consumers. And this is, I'm sure most of you know what this is, a P&G box of Tide. In P&G, like Unilever, and any CPGs know that 50% of the intent to purchase is coming from their packaging. So they spend a lot of money in making sure that their packaging is just the best in the world, right? All sorts of awards, win all sorts of things about it. So A.J. Lafley, who was the ex-CEO of Procter & Gamble, would go on these consumer connection studies. They go into people's homes, and they would look at how people use the product, just to see whether, are we connected? Do we understand how people are using it? And he was visiting all these homes, and he noticed that there were all these pieces of hardware in the laundry room, screwdrivers, pliers, things like that were all in the laundry room. And after the first couple of times, he thought it was just, lazy husbands leaving tools around. But after a couple of times, he asked the woman, he said, can I ask you, why do you have screwdrivers and pliers and razor blades down in your laundry room? And it was really quite a simple answer. Does anybody know the answer? Anybody want to venture a guess? Any women in here want to guess? Nobody wants to guess? Didn't want to break their nails, their manicure, opening the boxes. Right? Very simply, millions and millions of dollars spent on packaging. Yet Procter & Gamble could not understand, men designing the boxes, men designing the pieces of it, were as simple as not understanding that opening that box would mean destroying a manicure that happened the day before. Right? So this is really a wake-up call for A.J. Lafley and P&G, and said we really think that we're consumer-centric, we really think we understand the consumer journey, and the fact is they don't. And I think that's really one of the cases that we have to really open up and listen to customers, really hear what they have to say, and incorporate that into our business the way we talk to them and manufacture for them. So the next thing I want to talk about is the importance of data. And this has become one of the most important areas of the world we live in. And we talk about data as the new black, but we also talk about this as crude oil. And so when I say it's crude oil, what I mean is that it's very abundant. And all of us, as marketers, have tons of data about consumers. We have access to tons of information, but we don't do very much with it. Most of us are very frustrated by the kind of data we collect. But if we think about this as crude oil, it takes refining, it takes a lot of work to turn it into something of value. And we have to make those investments going forward. We have to make sure that we're taking this data and we're using it in exciting ways and understanding it. And that's investments that have to be done as we go forward. This is a recent chart about what happens in 60 seconds on the internet. You can see that a lot of stuff happens in just a short amount of time. 168 emails are sent every 60 seconds. 600 new videos are posted. 48 hours of video are posted every hour. So this is a huge amount of data that is uploaded and changed. And so this is an amazing amount of information that we could be using as we look at how we're going to engage with consumers. The reality is that 60 seconds translates into every 4 months today, the internet doubles. Every 4 months. So in size, in scale, in the amount of data. In just a few years, it's estimated that the internet will double every 72 hours. That's crazy. That is a huge amount of information, of data being collected and developed. And a lot has to do with the devices that many of you are carrying. The mobile phones, the videos, the access, the emails, the SMS texts, all this stuff, right? Everybody's a publisher. And so as we look at this, how are we going to start leveraging this as marketers going forward? So we like to think about this in two ways. We like to think about this as fast-moving data, and that's the kind of data that you see up here on there. This is like search and e-commerce and social. This is data we can collect very quickly. As you know, with Google, it's very clear that as you start typing into a search query, it's guessing immediately what you're trying to type. And that's quite interesting. But unknown to most consumers, as they're hovering over a link, hundreds of decisions, if not thousands, are being made about who's going to show you what ad, right? All these calculations are being made just in the background, very, very quickly. So lots and lots of data is being brought together in a very short amount of time. And we as marketers have just started to tap into this opportunity to understand what this is and how to use it. We look on the other side, there's slow-moving data, and we do this because we don't want to talk about traditional media, we don't want to talk about digital information data. We want to talk about this as what moves really fast and what moves slower. And it's not that one is better than the other. In fact, it's the combination of these two data sets that make it very, very interesting for us. Because the slow-moving data, things like retail data, television data, print, research that may take months to collect and put together, is really important for longitudinal understanding. And what we use is we use all the fast-moving data combined with that to get insights and understand what's going on. We need to do that. Because sometimes the changes of competition and opportunities could happen in a very short amount of time. Waiting a week or a month is a lifetime in the internet time. What are the opportunities? What's happening? Are we taking advantage of market changes? So we need to be thinking about that. And we see the process that we currently work in and are evolving through, moving from traditional planning into adaptive planning. We're going to need people that constantly optimize the plans and the ideas that we use. A more flexible, nimble process than are currently mostly across all the businesses today. It's going to look a lot more like this, a Wall Street trading floor, where people are using data information in real time to make decisions and changes. And we're doing this already for many of the clients in this room. All these changes in understanding are affecting client organizations in marketing. So I'm going to use an example from Coca-Cola here because it's quite interesting. And they had an observation looking at all this data that 150 million views on YouTube were generated, and they were very excited by that. They were just all excited. Wow, we have a lot of views. Everything's happening. But then they realized that only 30 million of that 150 million was the responsibility of that to the Coca-Cola Corporation. And they didn't think that was a very good ratio. They thought with all their investment, they actually should have more impact on this than they have. And they came to the realization that they weren't really organized for a very liquid, if you would, and fluid future. They were a very siloed organization. They had multiple activities happening in different groups, didn't know what was happening. And I think as you brought this together, they started to say, how do we need to change to actually be set up for success in the future? And so one of the things that they've done, and they did this in the last year, is they reorganized themselves and separated themselves away from media type or marketing discipline. So instead of television being over here and the digital group being over there and search being over there, they did it around these three areas of content, connections, and integrations. And all those disciplines and capabilities fall within those areas. And so they reorganized themselves. And I think that many marketing organizations are re-looking at themselves and saying, are we set up for success in the future? Are we really organized in a way that takes advantage or even can be successful as we go forward? And I think the answer is we're going to see quite a big changes happening across many, many organizations as we go forward. Another way to look at this, and this is a map of the way generally business works today in marketing. And on the left-hand side, we see a brand organization that has marketing, PR, R&D, e-commerce, retail, just divisions within an organization. And an organization creates content. And somehow, right, it gets distributed. I think in most organizations it's done very separately. People don't necessarily know what another group's doing. They might be more connected or not, but generally this is the process that we go through. And 99% of that work is just pushed out. Right? We create something and we push it out. So because if you're a marketer today and you're worth your salt, you manage assets that you make in places that you own. And that's basically what this represents. We create a television commercial, we place it on a network, we place a print ad, it goes into a magazine, even in creating websites and Twitter feeds, right? We're putting them in places that we own, that we've created. That's mostly of what we do. But if we look towards the future,